Hello YouTube modelers, welcome back to my channel. I want to thank all my viewers and subscribers for tuning in. About to start another build, another Mopar. This kit is fairly recent, the Fast and Furious. This is a legacy monogram kit because it's 1/24 scale. It's interesting when it was marketed as a monogram, or when monogram was around, I didn't really buy these kits too much, and then now I really enjoy building these. But anyway, this is the Monogram, now Revell 71 Plymouth GTX, tied in with the Fast and Furious franchise. Dominic Toretto's 71 Plymouth GTX. So it's very nice with the black and the ultra modern low profile tires. Fairly recent. I think around 2020 I ordered a bunch of these kits that I couldn't hold out any longer. So most of these Mopar kits are 2020. So here's the movie tie-in information. 1/24 scale. Some pictures of the finished car. The very recognizable oval air cleaner. So let me pause the video and I'll open up the kit. Okay, so I'm back. I opened all the bags and let's look at the parts. Everything is packaged separately like they normally are in recent kits, but the only thing that surprised me was the body was packaged in a plastic bag, but then they threw in the stock and custom tires in the same bag. Now this is not bad because it's packaged separately, but this was not packaged, so it was actually contacting the body. So if you guys have this kit and you intend to store it for a while, you might want to open it and take these tires out, because usually these are put outside of a bag and not contacting anything. But in this instance, for some reason, they packaged, well, mine anyway, they stuck the tire in the same bag as the body. So thankfully it's fairly recent and I don't have it for a long time, so no tire burn. But anyway, this is the generation with the really long hood and the short trunk. So these, when you're driving, you probably couldn't see much, but it's a nice body, nice raised detail on the bottom, the chrome trim. The nice GTX is raised detail, very nice, but very similar to the previous two Mopars by Monogram. Low parts count. So that's the body, very nice. Here are the stock tires. And then these are the custom tires that look like rubber bands because they're low profile but very wide. Here are the chrome. Now air filter and valve covers are usually orange or possibly black valve covers, but these are in chrome. Here are the stock rally wheels, which I may use if I'm building stock. I guess there's an option for the air filter or engine type. The round or the oval. Probably the 6-pack or a 2 or 4 barrel. Okay. All the parts look familiar, even the alternator looks very familiar. One side has that diamond tip, you see it? Okay. Here's the glass. I will not be removing it. It's the old style where the front and back are connected. Headlights. Probably directional or turn signals or fog lights, the smaller ones. Okay, I won't be removing the glass so I don't scratch it. Here is the hood and the back of the rim. Some people don't like this because they don't like the side bulge. Some of them like the one in the middle, the shaker type style, the one in the middle facing front as opposed to the two on the side. Intake manifold. It's about to fall off. Here are the ultra modern custom wheels. Torsion bar front end, and of course the rotor and brakes to use on this type of wheel because you can see right through it. So that's a nice addition to this older mold which probably didn't have this detail. So nice disc brakes and rotors. Chassis, bucket seats. It's got the ridges in it. The front bottom. Exhaust is attached to the axle. 3-spoke steering. Very nice detail. Dashboard does have raised detail, as you can see. Hold on. Yep. And the interior, at least this time, the middle console has some detail. Because the other two kits just had a shifter in it. Engine block. So right off the bat, I noticed there are two different types of front ends. Maybe one is lower and one is higher. One is stock height and one is custom height, because they're both similar. Of course, the starter is already molded into the engine block. So that's it. That's all the parts. Take a look at the decal sheet, which came out. So it does come with dash gauge decals, which is nice. The keyhole. It looks like for the oval filter, right? The 440. 6-barrel. GTX for the side in case you don't want to do the raised detail. Plymouth Motors. Is that what it says, Plymouth Motors? Ooh, New York plates. You know I'll be using the New York plates. Side marker lights. These are probably on the side fender. Hood pins. But I like they have New York plates. And they have that cartoonish. Okay, very good. I like it. I like it a lot. Here's the instruction sheet. Typical legend that tells you what all the asterisk means and the numbers and letters in a square box. Color code. Part identification. Typical engine. Engine first. Wheel options. Need to black it out. That's the dash decals. Now, being a Mopar, I can always go for high impact colors, but I think this one, I like the box art, but black paint has always been challenging, so I may go with dark charcoal gray. Decal placement. Okay, so that's it. So I'm going to wash the parts. What I usually do, wash them in dish detergent, rinse, let them air dry, separate by color, and then get some color on it. Alright, so everything's back from spray painting. I actually squeezed it in one day when we had 50-degree weather. Usually it should be above 60 degrees. Sometimes I try to get it in when it's above 50. Today is 20 degrees outside. So anyway, the body is gloss charcoal gray. Decided to go more conservative color, not a high impact or bright color for this Mopar. Everything else is the generic black or silver. Only thing is the surface did get some, it's not that smooth, so I'll see if I can save it by polishing it, wet sanding, the usual. Worst comes to worst, you just strip it. It was raining the day I sprayed it, even though it was 50 degrees, so I got some spotting on it, maybe from moisture or whatever. So I'll try to improvise and see if I can save it, because, you know, it's winter time now. Everything else came out okay. I sprayed over the chrome air cleaner and valve covers with orange. This time I want to do the orange oval air cleaner instead of leaving it chrome, but everything else came out okay. It is low parts count, so it's not that many parts to spray paint. Probably be building it stock, so I will have to do my magic with these Mopar rally wheels. So I'll see if I can save it. If not, I'll just have to strip it and then wait for another warm day. So that's it for now. Alright, so most of the parts already have been painted and detail painted. So here they are. Interior seats, the exhaust and axle, front end, steering wheel. The engine, I'm up to the wiring. Here are the aftermarket parts. Gray wire, red seat belts, air cleaner, stock tires. I must have spent like close to a day just detail painting these. The grille, instead of using panel line accent, I just used my own custom blend of flat black, heavily thinned out enamel paint. Black spoiler, front, bottom, the triple carb. Here's the interior with the wood paneling. This is the first time I use different tones, meaning the floor mat is flat black, everything else is gloss black. Because these e-body, Mopar e-bodies are unibody, I actually masked and painted all these front and rear sub-assemblies. It's not going to be a full-size frame, but just a frame in the front and a frame in the back. So this time I painted that black. I do have to touch up over here. This is where the alligator clips were when I was spray painting it. Here's the body. I ended up wet sanding and polishing it and then washing it down and then recoating it one last coat. It looks nice now. After spraying, I let it dry indoors rather than outdoors because I was really stretching it a bit at 50-degree weather. And this time the paint didn't congeal or anything like that, so it dried and cured very nicely. The only thing is I did have to wet sand it just a little bit to get rid of like the little lint and dirt and debris. So the finish is, well, when I finished spraying the final coat, it was nice and shiny and smooth, but it did have impurities in it. Now I sanded down the impurities, but it isn't as shiny and clear as before I wet polish it. So I did polish it quite a while too, but if it's smooth, the reflection will be not that bumpy. Okay, so that's that on this one. So that's pretty much it. So now I'm just going to wire the engine and then continue my assembly. Here are the custom parts. I really would have painted, would have built the custom, but usually if I only have one kit, I do like to build it stock. Maybe if I had a second one, I would build it custom, because the custom does look kind of nice, like a resto mod with the low profile wide tires, the molded open wheels, and it actually came with an insert for the large disc brakes behind it, because they're molded open, so you will see the brakes if you painted them silver and the calipers possibly red or blue or yellow. So these are nice parts to have. I might use them in a different build. I also have the BF Goodrich sidewall decals I will be using. So this is where I am now. I also painted the wood for the front dash. Dials will be decals. Alright, so here is the mock-up of the GTX. I think the riding height is perfect. And I'll show you what I did to raise the rear, because the rear is a little bit low on this one. I like how the wheel just clears the wheel well. So So that should be good. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I did. Because I noticed that people watch videos for different reasons. You know, some people just want to see the end result. Some people are watching for tips. So what I did was these square white pieces of plastic blocks. They act like longer leaf spring shackles. So basically I'm just raising the height by putting these blocks on it. So I had similar blocks on the Super Bee, but they're not tall enough or thick enough, so these I think should do the job as I showed you on the mock-up. So that's where I am right now. Okay, as far as the wheels attaching to the axles or the spindles, this one fits actually pretty tight and it's perfect. This is the first time I experienced one of these with this type of Revell Monogram type of style where you just snap it in. This time it's loose enough that it spins and it's tight enough that it doesn't come out. So what I do is that I use a Q-tip and I apply a little bit because I work on my bicycle a lot. I just use any type of oil, so I happen to have this around. So I just put a little bit on the Q-tip and then I just smear it only on the inner, if you see the exposed white plastic, just on this area alone. Don't put it all over the place. I only put it over here on that exposed white plastic. Because I even scraped the paint off of that because that's where the wheel spins on the axle. So same thing on the rear, right on that bare white plastic styrene because I scraped the paint off and it worked. The wheels stay on. So now I'm going to snap them back in and it should roll very freely. Okay, so in wiring the engine, I inserted the distributor cap into the engine block and then I separate. So for example, this one is a parts by Park, which I think is a higher quality distributor because the coil is in the center and then all the other distributors are on the side or encircle the coil cable. If you get the ones by, I think, Gopher, it's just a blob of wires coming out, but this one I think is a little bit more detailed. So this short one, or the one that's different, is the coil. That's the one coming out of the center, if you can see. And then I separate left half and right half. Now what I like to do, and I know some people like to do it like an octopus where they separate it, one side goes to one side of the cylinders and the other side goes to this side. But to make it look more natural, because inside the distributor cap is a rotor which spins either clockwise or counterclockwise and thus distributes or sends the electric current to the distributors while it's rotating. Usually the cylinders fire sequentially, you know, left, right, to get a more balanced engine. There are instances where maybe two cylinders fire on the same side in sequence, but I like to cross over my wires because they alternate. That's how I like to do it. Some people like to just split it down to half and then do left side on the left side, right side on the right side, but I like to see wires crossing right over here, you know, to make it look more natural. So then I just adjust the length to make sure that it's loosely routed. You don't want too much wire because then you get too big of a loop and it looks, you know, doesn't look realistic. To me, it's really more of you want it to look realistic so that later on when you take pictures it looks more in scale. Now they give you this tubing for the boots. You can make very long boots. I tend to make the boots, you know, I try to do it in scale because there is length to it, but don't make it too long either. So that's how I like to do it. So now I'm going to add crazy glue to this one because I test fitted it. The length looks about right. You know, put some natural bends in it. It looks good. So I'll pull it out and use crazy glue. I use Gorilla Glue, but basically any CA glue will work. Model cement will not work. So that's how I do it. So then when I'm done with this side, I basically attach every other wiring to, I guess this is the left side looking at the engine from here, and then I'll glue every other wire, which I already pulled out, to this side. So that's how I wire my engines. Alright, so I'm done with the remaining side. The wires are in. I'm just waiting for the crazy glue to dry, and then I'll put a little bit of glue on the distributor wire close to the engine block, and then I'll slide these black boots over it. Only thing left is the distributor wire. Distributor wire, there's the boot that's going to go on it. I make sure it's a little bit smaller, and then this is the actual coil that's going to go on this remaining wire that sticks out from the center. The coil wire is always the one in the center of the distributor cap. Think of it as the hands on a clock. So the rotor inside spans the radius of the distributor cap, much like the hands on a clock. It's in constant contact with the coil, but as it rotates, the contact will it will basically hit all the distributors of the cylinders, but it's constantly in contact with the coil. All the coil does is just take the 12 volts and ramps it all the way up to a higher voltage, so the electricity is strong enough to jump the gap in the spark plug. So that's all it does. So that's why the coil, you just stick to the end, and then you can mount it. Some of the aftermarkets, they mount it on the firewall. It could be on the inside of the wheel well, you know, over the hump, or in Mopar's case, a lot of them, they mount it on the on top of the intake manifold. So just do your research on the internet, but more importantly, just make sure that however where you route the wires and the coil, it doesn't affect your air filter placement. So this has a large oval. I already checked it. It's going to lay underneath, and then of course make sure that it won't hit the fan belts and everything. So these wire, you can always fine tune it, and that's what I'll do later on. So that's basically it. I hope that this has motivated you to wire your engines. For those of you who do not or haven't done so or ever tried it, it's pretty easy. Just make sure you have a lot of angle tweezers. This is my heavy gauge tester's tweezer. That's self tightening, right? You don't have to squeeze it. This one is a very light duty, but it gives me better feel, more sensitivity on what I'm doing. This is more heavy duty, and then this is very straight, non-angled, but the heads are pretty even. These, over time, when you twist and turn, the heads no longer meet, so sometimes they don't always grip the best. So that's it on wiring.